Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapine in the car, and the news of the day, Germaine Pratt has been released, or will be released by the Cincinnati Bengals. I would expect that it's 1 o'clock as I'm recording this. I would expect that around 3 o'clock or so, that press release comes down from the Bengals. Not a shock. Not a shock at all that the Bengals are releasing Germaine Pratt. I've said, I think, about 50 times this year that, and by this year, I mean this calendar year, by the time you see this, Germaine Pratt may be released. By the time you see it, so by the time you see this one, he may be released officially. But look, this is something we saw coming, something we knew was coming. Couple of thoughts. One, the Bengals, by releasing him, save $5.8 million in cap space. They create that. That's huge. It's huge because, they can use that for other options. But I don't think that this has anything to do with Trey Hendrickson. I've seen the speculation of, this means that they're going to have more money to pay Trey. And while theoretically that's true, I don't think they did that and now they have a deal done in place with Trey. I think the reason this deal or this decision came down today is very, very simple. It's because minicamp is tomorrow. It's because Germaine Pratt probably didn't want to show up to minicamp. The Bengals didn't want Pratt to show up to minicamp. And if he doesn't show and it's mandatory, then you got to fine him. And if you know he's not going to be on the team, well, then what is anybody doing, right? It's just, that was an artificial deadline. So the Bengals going to release him. But to me, it's so interesting that they held on to him this long. And I know they've been ripped for it by multiple people already. And it doesn't really make sense. When he requested a trade, it was to salvage his salary for 2025. When the NFL said no and no one was going to trade for him, the Bengals probably should have released him. The Bengals probably shouldn't have held on to him for multiple months past free agency. And I would have released him in March. I would have already used that money. A lot of you are familiar with what I would or wouldn't have done. I wouldn't have gone into the draft needing a linebacker the way the Bengals felt like they needed a linebacker. And they clearly felt like it was a huge need. They took Demetrius Knight Jr. in the second round, Barrett Carter in the fourth round. Both guys they had day 2 grades on and felt really good about. And so we'll see. We'll see how those guys go. I would expect Demetrius Knight to slide into the starting lineup this season and Barrett Carter maybe to push for that Akeem Davis-Gaither role. But they did sign Oren Burks, and I think Oren Burks is going to be an interesting piece as well on defense and certainly on special teams. So this was inevitable. This was coming. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, why did it take so long? Why did I get caught gym timing? At gym-wise, obviously, you see the cutoff on June 9th. Well, it's because of minicamp, but why did it take so long? I think that's the big hang-up. A lot of people saying Germaine Pratt to the Colts. I think that there's probably a sleeper team or two interested in his services. I'm not sure it's going to be quick. Maybe it is. Maybe he just makes a decision very, very quickly, or maybe it's the other way. Full disclosure, another reason why this video is a car video is because I did a whole video on Jair Alexander from the studio before leaving for this morning. And for leaving for the day, and I was like, Andrew, I have some thoughts on Jair Alexander, and drop them some really interesting things, how he could fit, why it should be an option, all of those things. So that video will drop later today. But as far as, in that podcast will drop later today, but as far as Germaine Pratt, obviously you go back to the 2021 and 2022 seasons. That's what defined him. And that's what defined the Germaine Pratt era. And that's what I think people should remember. I mean, he spent 6 seasons here. And in those two seasons, he's really, really good. Obviously, you have the interception against Derek Carr, bringing the Bengals their first playoff win in over 3 decades at Paycor Stadium in front of the home fans. But there were so many other moments during that run. I think in 2022, when the Bengals were probably going to lose to the Chiefs at Paycor, and he forces that Travis Kelce fumble, just huge plays like that are what I'll think of. And then the other moment, and it is my favorite recent moment, is when the Bengals season essentially came to an end when they gave up like 1 trillion yards to Russell Wilson and the Steelers in December, and they fall to 4-8 on the year. And we're asking Germaine Pratt, and he says,
missed tackles?
Yeah. Did you feel like there were a lot of missed tackles today?
Not that much, I don't think.
What missed tackles? Just quick game. It was a quick game. And obviously I'm poking a little fun at him, and at the same time, it's like, man, that things really went wild in a really bad direction last year. And even though he led the team in tackles, things didn't go the way a lot of people thought. And by the way, I think that's why Lou is out and maybe why Germaine Pratt will join Lou in Indy. Who knows? But make sure you check out our Jair Alexander video. And it's a big week for the Bengals. I mentioned minicamp. We will be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're going to hear from Joe Burrow. We're going to hear from Zach Taylor. We're going to hear from Al Golden. We're going to hear from Dan Pitcher. And who knows who else we'll hear from. But that's why you got to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. And also make sure that you check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon as well. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Erpine, our first car edition. If you're watching on YouTube of Cincinnati Bengals Talk, and if it's audio, hopefully I didn't sound too bad. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.